Hello everyone! Today, we will be continuing our series on Nox. The subject of this video is designation Omega, Epsilon, Upsilon, and Omicron. This exploration has a clearance level of 1. As with the previous videos, watching parts 1 through 3 of this series will give the context to understanding this video. You only need to watch part 1 and maybe part 2, but I highly recommend all of what Nox has to say. After this video you will agree. Some of what I say comes from his direct quotes. Speaking of which, in our first video on this series, I had hidden parts of the OTN list. Without context, it could be considered misinformation, so I never explained the OTNs that had the designation Epsilon and Omicron. I will do so in this video, and even touch on the designation Omega and Upsilon. I will also talk about the portal rock from part 3 at the end of the video, as I never quite explained that. The descriptions of these phenomena and items are misleading, so bear with me. Epsilon are OTN events/effects caused by ritual magic, and Omicron are OTNs caused or affected by Abrahamic religions. For a reminder, Omega has no known way to survive, destroy, or report contact with the OTN. You might be able to see how that relates to Omicron. Upsilon is a manufactured item with associated OTN effect. You might see how this relates to Epsilon. So what does this mean? How are these items and events handled, and by whom? Let's start with the science and work our way to the politics. The way these things work is actually fairly simple, or at least what little we know is. Magic and Abrahamic religions both create object, events, or entities. Take a statue that bleeds from its eyes. A normal statue is categorized as ritual magic, but if it's a Jesus statue doing the same thing, then it's categorized as Abrahamic. That's really the only difference. In fact, most of these objects are not connected aside from region and time frame. Humans associating one thing to another is how these categorizations came about. Aside from that, the ritual magic and the Abrahamic religion, other than normals, are the same thing. Objects that exhibit certain characteristics I will explain later. There might be one difference, however. Manifestation, in its most basic form, is the act of thinking hard enough that what you're thinking actually happens. It's a relatively unresearched concept, but it does relate to these OTNs, and is the best way to describe some of what happens. So back to the possible difference. Manifestation is stronger in a large group and continuously, so don't expect to levitate the remote towards you just by thinking really hard. Basically, it's consensus reality. If enough people believe in something intently, it manifests, similar to a tulpa. With this, a religion like Christianity might have more manifestations going into it, thus the possible difference between Epsilon and Omicron. Now, as far as how these objects do what they do, this is also quite simple. They can modify a constant. For example, something that makes things hotter or cooler might be modifying thermodynamic transfer. Nox described a healing mask that was previously in Canada that may affect temporal speed or something biokinetic. Science would probably characterize it as a violation of a constant, but it's simply modifying it. Now, as far as the politics of the situation, geographically speaking, Italy is a boot kicking a messed up Dorito. That messed up Dorito is Sicily, and right under that is Malta. Malta is a country steeped in history. As a middle point in the Mediterranean Sea between world powers and religions, it has been used as a strategic point in wars and religious crusades. As such, many religions exist in the region. Now, when the Vatican finds out about a magic or Abrahamic object or entity, they want to have it. When they do this, they act about the same as they do in public. Anything that isn't related to their religion is marked as heathen stuff, and so as to not taint themselves, they send the heretics to go get it, which is just anyone not Christian. Although I hate to admit it, this idea stems from logic, not the heathen things, but the idea of someone from a different group retrieving these items. With the way manifestation works, you can believe Christianity exists while also believing it won't affect you, almost becoming an omega to specific people. All this shows that religion is just LARPing with consequences. Strangely enough, demonic items are considered Abrahamic. Demons believe in God far more than any human does, so I suppose it makes sense. Things touched by holy figures also count. The Abrahamic items can get sent to the Vatican for study and are either kept there for a while or sent with the other non-Abrahamic items to Malta. Due to its history, strategic importance, and many different occupying nations and cultures, it has become a sort of secret headquarters for many activities from many different religions. Storing these objects for the Vatican is just one of them. In fact, there are vaults or storage for just about every member of the Grand Council of Malta. Malta also has lava tubes that connect parts of Malta's storage, our general tunnels, and our storage themselves. These lava tubes are expansive and have many applications. So how credible is all this? Well, when you rip back the titles created by political naming, it is actually quite simple. First of all, manifestation has been talked about for centuries. It is well established and is not too far-fetched that our brains could affect the world. Some recent studies have even posited quantum entanglement in our neurons, which as a side note, supports my video on what the incorporeal is made of and how souls may work. Certain items, events, or entities affecting the constants of the world and universe sounds like quite the powerful and impossible task. But with our investigation into portals revealing dimensions with far different constants, it has already been proven that these so-called constants are fleeting, and some scientists are already claiming as such. None of this proves God or magic is real. That is why I said the names are misleading. It is simply manifested or powerful items that can alter some unstable universe numbers. With that, I don't find this concept too far-fetched, and the parts about Malta and sending what the Vatican considers heathens to gather items because of a label they gave them sounds like what is already happening blatantly in the news. Now to quickly jump topics and go over the portal rock from part 3. Knox found some cryptid tracks. After a few years, he was able to track them back to a large rock with a hole through it where the prints disappear into. Turns out, a 3 or 4 acre rock that was once the top of a mountain chipped off 4,000 or 5,000 years ago during one of the major earthquakes happening in the area. It fell off and smashed into a giant valley and split apart. The hole in the rock was not a cave, but was from where the rock broke apart. It has a lot of electromagnetism and also sucks in a strange amount of water, creating strange moss formations. Presumably, the electromagnetism is part of the effects its metals are giving off that create the portals that these cryptids keep coming out of, hence the name. With that, I hope you enjoyed the video and remember to like and subscribe. Goodbye.